Alrighty, we are live. We should probably figure out whether we want to get a premium Twitch account so we can go back to, or Twitter account so we can go back to streaming on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
How you been?
Good. Welcome everyone. Today we are going through a second tutorial that Anthony wrote on how to use Dashmate to set up a local development environment for Dash platform. So Anthony, do you want to bring up that blog post and give it an introduction, and then we'll dive right in?
Yes. Whoops, give me 1 second.
Anthony has abandoned me here, all alone with you folks. So one of the reasons that we're doing this is it makes it easier to develop applications if you have just a local network, because 90% of what you're doing when you're building a Dash app is client-side stuff, and you don't really need a test network to test most of the functionality that you're going to be building with your application. But you do need some kind of backend service, and so a local network will help with that.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, so with Dashmate, I found that the thing that was most confusing for me is just kind of the process of like starting, stopping, resetting, restarting. There's like this whole set of different things you can kind of do, but that you can kind of ignore all of that if you just need to set it up and like set it and forget it. So over here, I already ran these commands because you see here the set up local command is the first one you run. It takes about 2 minutes to run. At least it did when I last ran it. And it kicks open Docker and starts a whole bunch of Docker containers. If we look in Docker just real quick, we see that we have like 4 running containers. We have a whole bunch of images and a crap ton of volumes. So ideally, you won't need to mess with any of this stuff. And if you do, probably gone pretty wrong. But once you run setup local, that sets you up for the local group. And then you do everything through this group command. So dash group start, and that takes about a minute to run, does all of that. And that's pretty much all you need to do to get it going. Now we will stop and restart to do the minting. But the way I set up the tutorial is I first have you start it so that you can create your wallet. And you also have this group status command, which will give you the status of your local network. So you see here we got our local network and it is up, and then we have local 1, local 2, local 3, and then this local seed thing. I know the local seed you use when you're minting. And then I have some little explanations here for kind of the different ways of stopping, starting, restarting. And the Dashmate group :stop -- force, that will be the one you'll use to stop and restart if you don't want to reset anything, if you don't want to basically have to run the setup local command again. And then you can restart it, which is basically just like stopping it and starting it again. And then resetting is when you kind of like wipe the whole thing and start again. But there's reset with dash dash force, or reset with dash dash force and dash dash hard, which does higher complete reset. So this is kind of like the Hail Mary if your thing is totally borked. And then what I also will do if it's really borked is I'll go into the .dashmate folder and I'll blow this away as well, because ideally you shouldn't have to. If the reset hard force should blow away your configuration, but I just found that sometimes if like I want to do a full reset, you can delete that .dashmate folder as well, because this is what's holding your config here, which is like this huge giant file with all this config in it.
Yep. And the Dashmate group reset dash dash hard dash dash force does not blow that folder away, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And it should
step further, you can just manually do that.
Yeah, it should like reset your config.json file, I believe is what it's supposed to do. So for the most part, like I said, you're not going to run into a lot of these issues unless you're having to stop and start and restart a lot, or if like you kind of leave a project for a week and then like come back and your Docker containers may or may not still be running. So that's where just some of this kind of like maintenance stuff comes in. But if you're kind of just going through the happy path, then you're usually going to be in pretty good shape. So
you have installed all the prerequisites, which would include Docker, which would include Node. You'd have you went through the system requirements checks to make sure that you meet all of those system requirements.
And I installed Dashmate globally.
Yeah, scroll all the way up to the top. Just I'm not sure that we actually showed the very top, just so that people can get an idea. We're at your website, first look Dashmate. And we have an outline, we have an overview, we have prerequisites, like I just said, Node, Docker, Dashmate. You've installed all of those, and then globally installed Dashmate as well.
Yep. Yeah, so that was all we did to get started, and then you'll know you've got it working when you can run this Dashmate help command. So there's your Dashmate command. So the surface area of Dashmate is actually pretty small if you're not needing to get into the guts of it, and if you don't need to deal with SSL or things like that. So really, it's mostly just set up, start, and then all the group commands that you need to deal with.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so you've already also run the groups. Yeah, maybe just go a little bit slower on the tutorial side, just so that people see which commands you've run. We don't have to read the paragraphs, but
yeah. So we had Dashmate set up local, so that ran this thing right here.
Yep.
And then Dashmate group start, which is this command here, and you'll know it works if you get all checks, basically. Yep. And then Dashmate group status gives you the status of your network.
Okay. Now, I don't expect you to know this, but just in case you do, I actually don't know this in terms of how the local setup works, but I believe, based on what I know from using the SDK and whatnot on testnet, that you need this seed node, and then the seed node essentially does the work of giving you a URL to contact and get a list of master nodes. And in this case, it would be one of those 3 nodes that you've set up. That's all you have to choose from because it's a local network. And then you do your further communication with one of those nodes. Do you know if that's how it works on this local setup as well as how it's done that with testnet?
So if by URL, are you talking about this?
Potentially. We would have to look at what the seed node port is when we set it up, but we don't have to go through that today. It's just in case you happen to know what it was.
So
Look
if
it
we
up
go into
later.
our config, I think we might see what you're talking about. So let's see.
Let's whoa, this is thousands of lines long. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, the config is gnarly. I tried to go in here and understand what was happening, and if you kind of go to the top level, you can get some sense of what's happening here. We won't go too far into this, but just in case people do need to mess around here, you have a whole bunch of configs, and this is basically when you're running those first couple commands. These will tell you like whether you're setting up for mainnet, testnet, local. So the ones we need to worry about is basically local, and then local 1, 2, 3, and local seed. So I'm not sure what you mean when you say URL, what URL you're referring to. But
open up that local seed, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Docker network subnet, inside, keep going down. P2P, RPC, miner, devnet, log, platform. Okay, it's even got the metrics drive. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the DAPI thing.
Yeah, you see that's showing up a lot in here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the case. So we can let's see. You don't have too much further to scroll, so might as well just scroll to the end.
Yeah.
Setting up DPNS. These are the contracts.
Yeah, this has got
contracts,
a whole bunch of
withdrawals,
stuff in here.
And then Dashmate itself.
And then you got this. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I don't either. But we have 3,300 lines of config file. Okay, so
fun stuff.
Yeah, let's go back to the tutorial then and just kind of work our way through it.
Yep. Okay, so I've got a project here. I also learned this handy dandy new command here, which is we were using this before to set our type to modules for ECMAScript modules. And I learned that you can do the same thing for your scripts. So there's one point in the other tutorial where people would go in and copy paste a whole bunch of scripts. But now if you just run this command, heyo, look at that. Brand new scripts.
NPM hints.
Yeah. And we got, so what I did is I like used Mikhail's tutorial a little bit and then kind of molded it with some of my own, basically how I set up some of these files and commands from the last one and created just like a super duper streamlined getting started. So the last one we did, it's like runs through all the commands, get you like a whole CRUD set up. You have like, 15 script files by the end. Whereas this is just going to get you a wallet, get you an identity, get you a contract, submit documents to that contract. That's all we're doing here. So this can get you from like, 0 to 50 in hopefully like 5 minutes or so. We're taking our time in this video, but you could run through this whole tutorial in like 5 minutes probably.
Yeah, so the scripts that you've set up, in contrast to the other one where we did a lot of reading, scripts just to read the blockchain, this is mostly writing, or we're creating, registering, creating, submitting, and then only the last one is actually just getting a document. So that's probably, I think, a good call. Let's open up. Do you have a reference to Mikhail's blog posts in your blog post? Or no?
So when I was writing this, he just had that gist. I couldn't find his Medium, so I'm not sure what Medium he's referring to that he's publishing on.
He may not have published it yet, so I'll check with him. But either way, we can keep.
Yeah, I will definitely, once, if there is a link for that, I will definitely reference it right up at the top.
Cool. All right, let's get going then.
Yeah, so for this, I set this up so you could run this create wallet command as many times as you want, and it'll always create you a new wallet because it has the client in here with mnemonic set to null and offline mode set to true. But you do need your local network to be running for this to work. If your local network is not running, then this command will fail. So we should be able to run this and have it work. So this is the only part of the tutorial where you might get a little bit of weirdness happening because there is going to be a second where we're going to have to stop and start this thing. But basically, for some reason, the mint command doesn't work when the network is running. I'm not really sure why that is. It's kind of obnoxious, but I'm assuming there's a good reason for it, you know?
Yeah, we'll look into it. Mikhail was saying the same thing. He didn't know either.
Okay, and then we're going to set up our client, and this is now going to have our mnemonic set from what we just created, and also, wait, I need this too. So this is really important. This is what we're just looking at in the config. This is what the local Docker network is kind of exposing the local network to you through this HTTP 127.0.0.1:3001 port.
Yep.
Now we're going to do these guys. So Dashmate group stop force. This will stop your network. And then this mint command. This is the best part of the whole tutorial. No more testnet faucet. So happy about it.
Yeah, that's great. Very predictable.
Yeah. Once I finally got this whole thing set up, I'm like, oh man, I'm never going back. This is now when I'm just kind of messing around and, you know, want to create contracts and stuff. I can just go from zero to 50 super fast. So what I did is I grabbed that address from here, and the command has a address flag that you could feed it an address, and then you need to set config to local seed. So now for your run, this is going to generate your dash. And
now this is while the network is stopped, and that was that thing that you noted before. So you did the stop. Now you're doing the mint, and then after this, presumably you'll start the network back up.
Yeah, exactly. So I got that very clear here in the tutorial. The mint command is surrounded by stop and start commands. So hopefully that will not throw people off.
Yep.
Okay, and now we're back. We're back up. So pretty smooth process if you do the commands in the right order and you know what commands to do when.
Mm-hmm.
So
now I know that you have this plan here. You got your tutorial. I do want to go off script a little bit since this is kind of how we're doing it. We're not going to try to make a very streamlined 15-minute video here. I think right now we could potentially do that with some editing and whatnot. But I'm just curious if you can open up an Insight server. If it should be running right now based on what I saw in the configs. Just need to find out what port and URL it's running at, because I just like to see on a Insight server those 50 dash that you minted if it's picked up on the Insight server.
Okay, I don't know what you mean by Insight server.
So Insight is the block explorer. You know how we usually open up a block explorer?
Yeah.
There should be some service running the block explorer on this.
Interesting. Yeah, because so there's the Docker PS command, which will show you everything. I don't know what to do with this. I know when you did like 80-minute long stream with Mikhail, he was doing this a lot, and he was going into he was picking certain ones, and he was running like you could do Docker logs with one of these.
Yeah.
And I had
The
no
only way
idea
that I would
what
know
was
how to
happening.
find it is to go to the config file again,
Okay.
and then do a page find for Insight and see if we can find a URL that it's running at, that service is running on.
Alrighty.
And if we don't find it there, then I'm kind of out of my league, just on a live stream here.
Yeah, we could just real quick check the Dashmate docs. There's this nice dashmate.org website. Nice little landing page. And also I like this. I've never seen this diagram before, but this is pretty cool. This is actually just useful for understanding Dash platform at all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see.
So this takes us to docs.dash.org. The user.
Yeah, I want the repo though, because this page is a whole bunch of screenshots
outdated
and stuff. It's not super great.
Yeah.
Let's see. This will hopefully take us to the actual thing. Okay, and this is the first time I tried to use Dashmate. I went here. The commands are just not in an order that kind of makes sense. So it's one of the things that I wanted my tutorial to do. But if we check here, yeah. So there's this Docker Compose Insight API file.
Okay.
We're not running Docker Compose right now, so I'm not sure if this is actually
I think
relevant.
Dashmate might run it for you though. So if we could just check 127.0.0.1 and then figure out what that port number is. I don't know why there are two colons though. Colon core insight port and then core insight port again. Oh, error. Something. Yeah, I don't know Docker Compose enough to figure out why there's two port numbers tacked onto that. But that's I think the port number we'd have to find back in the JSON config file again. And I think it was there. I was looking for a URL last time we looked there, but it's just a .001. So we know that. So if you open up a web browser
and do what?
And either go to localhost or 127.0.0.1 and then colon something. Just drop the colon for now. Can't be reached. Okay, so maybe this is barking up the wrong tree here. We can keep going. I just wanted to check and see if that was easy to find.
You should ask Mikhail. He'll probably have a better idea of that. But yeah, I would be curious if you could get into some sort of like locally running Explorer. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are about to register our identity. Okay, so now these are commands from my last tutorial. This is really simple one. You're just running .register on identities and then console logging out your identity. And this is the command where testnet would usually fail on us if testnet were to fail. So now that we got everything local, this is no longer a scary command to run. So that's cool.
Yeah. We got our identity, putting it in the environment file. So that now subsequent scripts will refer to that identity file.
And now we've got our create contract. This is basically the same contract from the tutorial, which is from the Dash docs themselves. It has you create a note, which is type object, and it's just a little JSON object with a message, and that message has a string type, which will contain whatever message you want to write. And then we have, so I used to have this console log here, and that would throw people off because it would give you the contract ID before it finishes running. I figured out how to fix that. You just put the console log below the last step.
Yep. Yeah, people would be thinking that it's done because it returned something, but it hadn't actually finished.
Yep, exactly. So now we got here, we have our contract ID and our contract.
Can you go back to the script again real quick?
Yeah.
Contract ID, contract .to JSON. So before, did you also change this? Because I think before you were just referencing the name like from the environment file instead of from the variable, but maybe I was wrong on that. So I was just double checking to see.
We can find out.
It may not have been the contract one either. It was just one of them. There was one where it was grabbing the data from the environment file instead of from the network, and it was like a false positive kind of thing. But
interesting.
We can look into that later.
Yeah, it looks like here, it looks like it's doing the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Okay, so our contract is created. Now we can, so now you need to update your client. Very, very important. This is what lets you use this nice little query syntax with hello world.note. And then this will be our submit documents command. And what this is doing is this is now going to, and so here I put the top up command right in there so that every time you submit a document, it tops you up a little bit. This is obviously not going to be a good practice once you're dealing with real funds, but just here on testnet, since Dash is free anyway, this just ensures that you're never going to run this command and not have the appropriate credits or duffs in your wallet, or in your identity, I should say. And then it's gonna give you a little message, hello from Dash, local network. Wait, I probably didn't save my identity. Oh no, I did. Let's see. Interesting. Hello world. Identity expects buffer. Let's try hard coding it. Oops. Okay, I must have messed something up somewhere.
I wonder if it may be an API change as well, because we're now running. Let's go to the package JSON file.
I'm running the most recent one, 16, but when I wrote this tutorial, I was using this version, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be an issue. Actually, oh wait. Oh, I did it wrong. I didn't say the contract ID. Dude.
Okay.
Yeah, this happened a couple times in the streams when people
just
didn't.
not following your own instructions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, great. So now we see here, and I will make sure to save this one this time. Document ID. Boom, boom. Okay. So now we see here. This is our document, and there is our message. So just so we can get the full experience, I did have one read command in here just to make sure your full end-to-end thing is working. So now we have our get documents command. This is going to run get on hello world.note, and it will give you all the messages. If you put this to like 5 and you have 10 messages, it will only show you the first 5. Here we'll see. We got our nice little message there. Hello from Dash Local Network. So there you go. That's the whole end-to-end tutorial.
Yeah. Cool. Can you go back to the get document script again just one more time?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not using the where command here. So we have this dash query syntax, which I found a little bit confusing, and a lot of weird stuff kept happening. Let's see, where is, I want to go to platform docs. There's here we go, query syntax. So I never was a Mongo person. I always did, Postgres relational kind of databases. And so I think this is kind of like a Mongo thing, because I know Grove DB is a bit like MongoDB. So this where syntax is kind of ways to like grab specific fields. So you see here, you have field name, operator, and value. And there's like really specific things you have to do in terms of like, so see here, there's like only one range operator is allowed to query. The in operator is only allowed for the last 2 indexed properties, like all these weird, super specific esoteric rules. So I found this extremely hard to work with and deal with. So maybe that's just because my background didn't prepare me for it. But this is one of the ways you can query. So my script is not doing that. It is just grabbing everything and then spitting it all out for you.
Yeah. So in theory, you could have better performance by including the where and the different queries, query limitations, filters on your query itself, because then you'd be returning less data from the network. Mm-hmm. But in practice, it's not going to make that much difference. And if it's easier to do filtering in your JavaScript syntax instead, then that's fine. You're putting more data over the network though. And we don't really have a way to prevent people from doing that because the queries are free. So
yeah. Reads are always cheap with blockchain.
Yep. All right. Cool. We got through that relatively quick. I wonder if we want to play around with anything else. Like what I would like to see as a user is I'd like to be able to see the different UI services as well, and be able to have those at my disposal. So not only the Insight UI, the block explorer, Insight Block Explorer, but also Grafana and metrics, other metrics. I know that I saw some things about that in the configuration file. So I'm assuming that it spins up those services. It's just how to access those from the browser. That's the only question. I don't know if we looked thoroughly on the GitHub documentation, but let's just do a find for Insight.
Yeah, so we've done that. That's what got us that Docker Compose
but file. It's not in the actual documentation is what I was looking for. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. No.
Okay. Well, we'll look at that off stream, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. Yeah, I see things like metrics in here. Let's see. So,
Yep.
let's see, 90. Let's try that one. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think none of these, like,
it's an issue with Docker. Like, I don't know if Docker is actually exposing them to the outside world.
that's what I'm saying. It's like you can't just kind of like go to these SIM port numbers and run them in your, like you would if you're just running like
try localhost. I don't think it's going to work, but just try localhost port 9090.
Sure. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, same issue. Okay, we'll look into that later. Anything else you want to go through over the stream? Let's look again at your at the tutorial. Did we make it down to the bottom in terms of?
Yeah. I just wanted to kind of like write a little conclusion and call to action or whatever, but that's pretty much it in terms of the tutorial. I'll probably have a link actually at the end back to the first one, so that if people want to kind of go deeper. But I like this setup because whenever I did want to kind of do anything with the Dash network, I would kind of run through my other tutorial. And now this is like an even more kind of streamlined way of doing that. I might even make like a little cheat sheet that is just the command and codes and throw that in a gist. So if anyone wants to get up and running in like 30 seconds, they could do that. So it's kind of like this slow, like whittling process of me kind of understanding how to work with the network and then how to kind of get it down to its base functionality in really simple reusable ways. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about like my current knowledge of Dash platform and how to work with it. So that's good.
Yeah, it's a great tutorial as well. So thank you for putting that together. And for everybody else, thanks for joining in, and we will see you later.
Yep. Bye, everyone.